The Social Security Administration is reviewing more benefit cases in 2026 than it has in years, and one wrong answer on a single form can get your monthly check reduced, suspended, or hit with an overpayment demand for thousands of dollars. This is not a scam letter. It's a real government review. It arrives in your mailbox or your online account, and it comes with a deadline. Here's what makes it dangerous. Most people who get this form treat it like routine paperwork. They fill it out fast. They answer one question wrong, and they never realize that single mistake just put their benefits at risk. There's a right way to handle this form, and there's a way that gets your check cut. By the end of this, you'll know exactly which questions to watch, the one deadline you cannot miss, and what to do the moment this letter arrives. Stay with me, because the most common mistake is one almost nobody sees coming, and I'll show you how to avoid it. And I want to be clear about who this affects, because there's a lot of confusion out there. This matters most if you receive certain types of Social Security benefits, and there's one specific group that gets reviewed far more often than the rest. I'll tell you exactly who, so you know whether this is about you, in just a moment. Asterisk asterisk why the SSA is reviewing more cases in 2026. Let me explain what's actually happening, because the headlines make it sound scarier than the truth, but the truth still matters for your money. The Social Security Administration has publicly focused on reducing its backlogs and tightening oversight of its programs in 2026. In plain terms, that means more reviews are moving through the system, more letters going out, more forms to fill, and more chances to lose benefits over an avoidable mistake. There are two main kinds of review the agency runs. The first is a redetermination, which checks your non-medical eligibility, your income, your resources, your living situation, and your marital status. The second is a continuing disability review, which checks whether someone receiving disability benefits still medically qualifies. The agency confirms that even cases unlikely to have errors get reviewed at least once every 6 years. Cases more likely to have a problem get reviewed far more often, sometimes every single year. And in early 2026, the SSA announced new business process changes, including automated financial checks that pull your bank records, your wage data from the IRS, and state records, then compare them against what you reported. So who actually needs to worry about this? Here's the answer to the question I opened with, and it's important you hear it clearly. Asterisk asterisk who gets reviewed and who doesn't dot asterisk asterisk. This is the open loop I promised. So let me be precise, because getting this wrong causes a lot of unnecessary panic. If you receive supplemental security income, that's SSI, the needs-based program, you are subject to redetermination. And most recipients get reviewed somewhere between once a year and once every 6 years. If you receive Social Security Disability Insurance, SSDI, you're subject to continuing disability reviews that check whether you still medically qualify. If you receive standard retirement benefits and nothing about your situation has changed, you are far less likely to face one of these intensive reviews. But and this matters, the agency's automated systems still cross-check your records. And if something doesn't match what they have on file, anyone can get a letter asking for clarification. So here's the bottom line. If you or a family member receives SSI or disability benefits, this is directly about you, and you need to pay close attention. If you're on retirement benefits, you should still know how this works. because a mismatch in the system can pull anyone into a review. Now let me show you the form itself and the exact mistakes that cut people's checks. The form and the mistakes that cost you. When the SSA reviews your case, you'll receive a form to complete. For a redetermination, it asks about your income, your resources, and your living arrangements. For a disability review, you may get a short update report or a longer, more detailed report depending on your case. Here are the mistakes that quietly destroy people's benefits. Mistake number 1. Answering a question without understanding what it's really asking. For example, the redetermination form asks whether you've applied for every other benefit you might qualify for. If you answer no when the agency believes you should have applied for another program, your eligibility can be suspended, and you can be hit with an overpayment for the months you didn't apply. Mistake number 2. Not reporting a change you thought was minor. A new source of income. A change in who lives in your household. Money moved between accounts. The automated system catches these through bank and IRS matches. If your form says one thing and their data says another, they open what's called a limited issue review, a deeper dig into that specific discrepancy. Mistake number 3, and this is the most dangerous one. Sitting on the letter. If the SSA sends a follow-up asking for more information and you let it sit for 30 days, that often results in an automatic finding against you for the period in question. Silence is treated as an answer and not in your favor. And that brings us to the single most important thing in this entire video, the deadline that decides everything. The deadline you cannot miss. Here's why speed is everything with these forms. When that letter arrives, the clock starts. If you're asked to complete a report or respond to a discrepancy, the agency expects it back within a set window. Wait too long, and the system can make a finding against you automatically, reducing or suspending your benefits without ever hearing your side. And if a review turns up an overpayment, you'll receive a notice of overpayment with the dollar amount, the months affected, and the reason. Under current rules, the agency can withhold a large portion of your monthly check to recover that debt, which means a single unanswered form can turn into hundreds of dollars disappearing from every payment until it's repaid. The fix is simple, but it requires action. The moment any letter from the Social Security Administration arrives, open it the same day. Look at the date and find the response deadline. Do not set it aside. Do not assume it's junk mail. That envelope is the difference between your benefits continuing untouched and your check getting cut. So what do you actually do when it shows up? Here's your step-by-step playbook. Your step-by-step playbook. Follow these exactly, in order. Step 1. Open every SSA letter the day it arrives and write down the response deadline. That date is your most important number. Step 2. Read every question slowly before answering. If a question is unclear, especially anything about other benefits, income, or who lives with you, do not guess. Call the Social Security Administration at their main line, 1-800-772-1213, and ask them to explain exactly what the question means before you answer it. Step 3. Gather your documentation before you fill anything inches. Bank statements, proof of income, anything about your living arrangement. Your answers need to match what their automated systems will pull from the IRS and your bank. Step 4. If you have a representative payee, someone who manages benefits for you, make sure they handle the form correctly and keep those funds completely separate from their own accounts. Commingling money is one of the fastest ways to trigger a problem. Step 5. If you get a follow-up letter asking for more information, respond immediately. Never let it sit. If you need help, you don't have to do it alone. Call the SSA or contact a free legal aid organization that handles benefit issues. Many will help you respond at no cost. Step 6. If your benefits do get reduced or you receive an overpayment notice you believe is wrong, you have the right to appeal and to request a waiver. There are specific forms for this, and there are deadlines on those too, so act fast. Here's the bottom line. These reviews are not designed to trap you. For most people, if the paperwork shows you still qualify, your benefits simply continue. Think of it like a recurring inspection, not an investigation. But the people who lose benefits are almost always the ones who rushed the form, guessed at a question, or ignored a deadline. So if you receive any benefits from the Social Security Administration, do this one thing. Treat every letter they send as urgent. Open it the day it arrives. And never answer a question you don't fully understand without asking them first. And if you have a parent, a spouse, or a friend who receives SSI, disability, or retirement benefits, send this to them. One rushed form is all it takes to put a monthly check at risk, and one careful answer is all it takes to protect it.